You're listening to the Author Stories Podcast, bringing you the story behind the stories and the storytellers.
Margaret White,
Terry Brooks,
Sheena Kamal,
Matthew Quick,
J.T. Ellison,
Walt D. Williams,
Brad Thor,
Corey, Dr. O, Brandon Sanderson,
Robin Mom,
Ernest Klein, Jim Butcher,
Sherwin Harris.
Visit hankgarner.com for archives of all the shows. Today's guest is... Thanks for tuning into Author Stories. Today my guest is Robert Bathurst.
Thing is that because audiobooks are now such a growth market in publishing, more and more people are listening to them, and we become connected with the narrator in the same way or in a similar way that we would when we crack open a novel. And we feel like we have a connection to the writer. Now there's a third entity that comes in, and the story becomes kind of bigger than we previously would have considered. It's a strange thing that happens with audiobooks.
Well, I think any performance is a contract between the author and the audience. And so the actor, their job is not to get in the way of that, but also is to try and illustrate it. I mean, it's a strange thing because when you're reading a book, your mind is, your imagination runs, the voice of the characters run in your head, and what you're dealing with an audiobook is you're dealing with somebody else's interpretation of what that character how that character might sound, or the rhythm in which they speak, and all those other things. And so it's a sort of different relationship. But essentially, yeah, the audiobooks are booming. I mean, people obviously. There's a high anxiety around in the world at the moment, and in many respects, and the ability of literature to make you escape from that and to absorb. There are many people who perhaps wouldn't pick up a physical book who would turn to audiobooks and were on their walks and on their car rides, train journeys, or whatever it is, are happy to absorb their literature that way, and it might even open up more book reading as a result of it, when people like an author and want to follow that author.
What, do you remember the first book that you listened to on audiobook, Robert? Was this something that you were aware of before discovering that? What is your experience with audiobooks as a consumer?
I'm new to audiobooks because. I mean, the great thing about the current technology, is that the ease with which you can, because it used to be you had your phone, and that was one thing, and you had maybe you had your separate iPod or whatever the device you had, and it was a business sort of having juggling. Now everything seems to be sort of in one, and you on your phone you can more or less with the computers and stuff like that, you can have it all on one thing. So it's an easier thing to do. It's, for many people, it's affordable compared to buying books. And so yeah, I made them. I was reading them before I was listening to them. Really, my early ones. I was doing. I did some non-fiction one by William Dalrymple about the Mughals in India, and Lynn Truss book called One Lousy Packet of Seeds or something, with one free lousy, it was a cumbersome title, but a good book. So yeah, and my first audiobook I think I heard, there was you had to have a whole wodge of CDs, to listen to, and you're listening in the car and you're feeding them in as they change over. It was quite a cumbersome business, but my first one that I did listen to properly was Timothy West reading Anthony Trollope, Barchester Chronicles, Barchester Towers, started off with them. And that was a masterful reading. In fact, he's my benchmark for how to do it. He had loads of characters in it, but it was done with such grace and nuance and subtlety, but very clear as to who was speaking. But it was always Tim West speaking, but it was always his ability to just nudge the character in such a way that you knew exactly who was speaking at any one time. It was a superb piece of technical mastery, but his technique wasn't at show. It was the story, it was the novel, it was the characters that were on show, and that's what you've got to go for, I think, as a reader.
So you are an actor, have been for quite a while.
Decades.
Some of our listeners might recognize you from your time on Downton Abbey, which was a hugely popular show not only in the UK but here in the States as well, where you played Sir Anthony. People may be familiar with you. How did you get started in acting? What was your entry to the craft?
Well, it's sort of where I feel most comfortable, strangely. I mean, I've never done therapy, so I really sort of haven't sort of discovered why I want to be an actor. But I from the age of 13, I knew that I didn't own up to it till I was 25, really. I didn't sort of get a proper job till I was 25. I was always doing shows in the meantime, though. I was always doing school shows, university shows, post-university shows, and tours and festivals and stuff like that. But, I mean, I didn't get my first proper... I was paid before, but not sort of... I couldn't live off it until I was 25, and so then I thought, well, yeah, I think I can call myself an actor now. In the old days, you used to write your occupation on in your passport. There used to be a thing saying occupation, and I remember writing to the passport office and saying actor. That was all right. I can call myself that now. But it's a perilous profession, as we know, and so. But how to analyze it? Whether I just like telling stories and connecting with an audience, whether it's on film or on radio or in any form, really, stage, of course. So it's about landing a beat with an audience, landing a moment, squeezing language, getting it into the mind of the audience, wherever they are and however they're receiving it.
You said a very curious thing earlier, Robert, when you said that there was a contract between the writer and the audience, and the actor should not get in the way of that, but should help to transmit the intent of the author to the audience. And in a day and age where we really sort of idolize actors, and everyone knows who Tom Cruise is and has a favorite movie that he's been in, but may not even know who the screenwriter of a story that he has been involved with that we love. How do you feel about the kind of cult of personality that has grown up around acting and either stage, screen, or audiobook? And what do you think about this, the allegiances that we seem to have to actors and to these people that transmit the story to us?
Well, all actors, their only job is to transmit a character and a story. I mean, of course, you get actors who are commodities, but ultimately, if you don't believe, you don't get concerned whether Tom Cruise is going to make it as he's hanging onto that aircraft, and is he going to fall? If you're worried for him or for his character, then he's doing a good job, and he does do a good job. And so essentially, it's all about the acting. It's not about the actor. And it's a really unfashionable thing to say that, because art is supposed to be embodied, and the artist is supposed to be embodying their work the whole time. But ultimately, actors, that's not their job. That's a misreading of what the acting is. Actors can never be as interesting as the parts they play overall. If you're lucky and you do decades of work, you're playing lots of different people. And so long as you decide that, in fact, it's not about you, it's about what the author intends. Of course, it is about you in the sense that it's there's good acting and there's bad acting, and you're trying to, but you try and land it. But it's essentially not about you. So once you do that, it's completely liberating, and you don't get nervous so much. Your nerves are simply about the show, if it's on stage or whatever, and if you're doing television, you're filming, you don't get nervous because you know that everyone around you, they don't give a damn what you're doing, because they're just interested in the sound or the makeup or whatever. And so if you take that aspect of it, the whole ego of it out, of course you try and get it right, and you do it right, and you worry about that, and you try and talk to the director and you try and find it. But whether you're a commodity actor or the much derided character actor, and you're all essentially doing the same job, and it's entirely whether the audience buy what you're doing or not. And but just to make it all about you is a dead end.
Noveler is the best way to write a novel. Why? Quite simply because we've made it the easiest place to do it. Writing a novel is hard enough. Noveller takes care of all the logistical bits of writing a novel, just leaving that small matter of the words to you. It's a clean, beautiful writing interface with writing analytics, goals and streaks, advanced grammar checking, version control, day, evening, and night modes, and many other features designed to take all the stress out of writing. Tell us what you need and we'll build it. Together, we'll build a better tool. With a design-led approach, all the right tools that you need, Noveller saves all your words constantly, allows you to manage and order your novel easily. It's accessible from any device, desktop or mobile. It syncs to Google Drive and Dropbox. It allows exports in various formats, including ebook and more. It also has nice touches like allowing you to write both offline and online, unique for a web-based platform. Everyone needs help with their writing, from inspiration through to grammar checking, so we're doing our best to provide that support. We integrate that support directly into Noveller. Our advanced grammar checker powered by Pro Writing Aid does everything from spell check to style advice. Our writing courses include the incredible Tim Clare's Couch to ADK. We're really excited to offer all Author Stories listeners 30% off Noveller for a whole year, and it doesn't matter if you choose to sign up for the monthly or annual plan. You'll get 30% off. All you need to do is use the discount code HANK when you sign up. Noveller, Novlr. That's noveller.org.
Right. So Robert, you've had a very storied career as an actor, and you've been in film and television, stage. What was it that brought you to audiobooks?
Well, I started in radio, and I just started doing sort of on radio comedy and do a lot of commercial voiceovers, which I continue to do. And so the voice work has always been part of what I do. I do sort of theatre, and I do quite a lot of television in the UK. I don't have a career in the States, particularly. There's a few shows I've done, like Toast of London and Cold Feet and stuff like that, which have limped across and Downton Abbey, and they are available. But mostly my career is in the UK, and the audiobooks. So the voice work I do is sort of an extension of what I've always done. Audiobooks is a relatively new thing, as I say. I must say, you work much harder doing an audiobook than you do doing anything else. You're in a booth for 6 days, and luckily I have a really good director on the Louise Penny series, the Inspector Gamache series, and she's written 16 of these, and I've read the last 6 of them, because very sadly the previous guy died, Ralph Cosham, who was very popular with the Louise Penny's fans, and they were looking for someone to take over. And for whatever reason, I got the nod for that, for which I'm extremely grateful. But it was taken over in sad circumstances. And so, yeah, I mean, you do work incredibly hard. I got a really good director, Lorelei King, who's from California, and she's based in London, but she's a really experienced actor and voice artist. And so it's a partnership between the two of us, and so it's not lonely because Lorelei is so good. But you are in a booth and you are sitting reading for days and days and days and days, and it's certainly compared to commercial ad work, it really is. You earn your corn doing voiceover, doing audiobooks, I tell you.
Well, how do you compare doing this sort of work, and maybe audio specifically, as opposed to stage or screen, where people are watching your performance as much as they're listening to your performance, as opposed to audiobooks or even radio, where it's you and your voice and the material, and you don't have another actor to kind of play off of, or to take and receive cues from one another. It's just you and the material. How do you approach that as an actor, when it's just you and there's no one else to play off of?
Well, I regard it as all exactly the same in some ways. It's the same juices flowing, because what you're doing is you're connecting to an audience. And whether if you're in theatre, you're making sure that it's Rose Ed can pick up what you're doing, not because you're shouting, but because you're pinning it so that they can pick it up. And row A aren't thinking, oh, she's speaking loudly. So somehow you've got to get through to everybody. The same on television. You're just you're aware that it's down the bottle, and you have a sort of technique to be aware. I mean, I have people on television do tend to mumble a bit, and I was doing a job with somebody on an NBC thing, and I did a scene, and I couldn't hear what he was saying. He was only 4 feet from me, and and the only reason I knew it was my cue was his lips stopped moving. So you've got to be aware of the audience in any medium that you're working in, and in voice work, similarly, you just try and be aware. You're not lonely, and you're not speaking in isolation. You're constantly aware of reaching the audience, and so that's the only thing that you mustn't be so wrapped up in it that you can't be heard, and you can't really sort of have them in mind. So having the audience in mind, it means that in whatever medium we're working in, it's always about connection.
Robert, we've all listened to audiobooks that the narrator does a straight read of the manuscript, and it's one monotonous voice from beginning to end. And I'll tell you, not only can it be very confusing sometimes to try to stay focused and follow the narrator, but you can tend to sort of zone out and kind of lose track of it. And now we've had those experiences, and then when you listen to a performance where the narrator is embodying each individual character and bringing something fresh and new to that character, really makes it dynamic and makes the story come alive in a way that no other medium can deliver. When you approach a manuscript that, a new book by Louise Penny comes out and you're going to narrate it, how do you approach the material for the first time when it's fresh to you? How do you prepare for what's coming up?
It takes a lot of preparation, and so the first time I'll read it, I will just read it as a reader, and I'll read it, and I won't try and work out what it is, how it is I'm going to be doing it, because I just want to get the flavour of it as a reader would from if they're reading the print version. And so then the second time I will go through it carefully and mark it up and work out what these various characters, who they are, what they're sort of start doing the technical stuff about how they differ from each other, what their voices might be. I mean, it's not a sort of technical thing whereby you want the audience to think that there's 40 different actors doing it. It's taking the Timothy West in Trollope guidance. It is nudging the characters. Technically, you're working out where their voice comes from, whereabouts in their head it's sort of set, where in your face, where in the body, where the voice comes from, how quickly they speak, how lightly, how darkly they speak, or whatever it is, and in the various sort of lights and shades and various nuances that they have, vocal mannerisms or whatever, and accents, of course, as well. So that happens on the second read, and then on the third read, I try and give myself an out loud read of it before I get into the studio. So you should be on top of it. You're always taken by surprise, though. And with a good director, we can sort of discuss it and stop and start and do all that. And with a good engineer, it can sound seamless. But I regard it as a performance rather than as a reading. Even if it's a non-fiction book which doesn't have characters in it, it is about getting through to the audience. And so what it must never be is about the voice beautiful, and if it's too rich and it's too brown voice, in the sense of it's sort of rich and treacly, you'll get bored with that. And there is a lot of people who like the music of the line rather than the sense of the line. I'll go for the sense every time. You just want to hit the sense, And if it's too self-indulgent and too fruity, then you're not going to get through one chapter.
When you're dealing with an ongoing series, like the Louise Penny books, do you have notes or that you refer to from previous readings that you've done, where you can kind of re-embody a character who's already appeared in a story before, or is it all new each time?
Well, we've got a really good production team, okay, and it's from Macmillan Audio, who the audio arm, of course, at Macmillan. They will provide reference recordings from previous characters. Say there's one character called Stephen Horowitz who comes into the new book, which is set in Paris. So all the devils are here, and he came into the last book, and he came in as a character in the last book, and I'd forgotten what I'd done with him, and there was a reference. We had a reference audio to work on that. And Lorelei King will tell me if characters are sounding too similar. She'll get me to push the register up or down or do something with it. So that's really, really useful. Some of the characters are regulars, and they're members of the cast. As I say, I've done the last 6 of the series, and some of them are regulars, and I've got them sort of in the bag, and I don't need to refer back. But then there's all sorts of new characters who come in, and then who might not appear for another 20 pages. So the engineer will give me a little reminder of what I was doing with that character 20 pages ago, and then I'll match it in and go on from there. So yeah, there's all sorts of references you can give to the characters, but the production team are brilliant at sort of just giving me an archive of what I've done before.
So, Robert, when you're dealing with, I think this is a question that a lot of people would be intrigued to find out. Do you have any communication with the author of these works, and is it a collaboration between she and you, or is the audiobook treated as a separate entity, by the publisher and everyone involved in the process?
Well, my loyalty is to the author, so I will faithfully do that. I will receive the book and do it to my best ability, but it is a separate thing in the sense that Louise is very encouraging. I mean, I met her first time. I did on the 3rd book I did, Glass Houses, which was the 13th of the 16 that she's done. She happened to be in London. I was recording them in London, and she was there, and she came not to the recording, but she came after the recording, just as we finished, and I did an interview with her. You can hear it on the Glass Houses audiobook. And I talked to her. I hadn't met her before, and it was great. I had suddenly sort of had all these questions I wanted to ask her. I mean, Louise has the characters in her head, and so she won't listen. I'm sure she doesn't listen to them. I mean, I never asked her directly because she'd probably feel it, but and I'm sure she doesn't. I mean, she has been incredibly supportive and wonderfully supportive of, and we've had all sorts of nominations, and we picked up a really nice award this year, and she's been great, really encouraging about that. So they are separate events, the print version and the audio version. She supports the audio version and celebrates joint successes in it, but certainly is not involved in that, because that would affect how she sees the characters, because it's my interpretation of it, and she needs, as a creator of it, to keep her interpretation to herself and what's going on in her head.
I've often wondered if authors feel like that the character changes for them in the writing of the character and how they see the character based on what they've heard from an audiobook narrator. Do you ever, or have you gotten any sense from Louise that a character has changed or morphed in any way based on the narration?
Well, I'm sure that I think she's unaffected by that, and I think it's really important for her to steer clear of the audio version, because it's work in progress. I mean,
Right.
We're 16 novels in, and everything has come from within her wonderful mind. And the last thing she needs is my interpretation, and probably some of my pronunciations are off what she had in mind as well. But no, I mean it is separate. But no, we're in fairly constant touch about the work and a number of aspects of it, and we discuss the work. We discuss it as a piece of literature. We don't discuss it as a recording. And she's really good company, and she's always working, and she's got these extraordinary books which on the face of it are sort of mystery thrillers. She's won 7 Agatha Awards amongst all her many other awards, and so in a sense Agatha Christie is a model for all mystery thriller writers, crime writers, but she takes it to a different level, I think, because it's not a sort of police procedural type of work, although there's murders and there's terror and there's real tension and jeopardies and murder and a lot of distress and things. But underneath it, underpinning it, is this central character of Armand Gamache, who has a sort of, without overplaying it, a sort of almost sort of mystical quality to him, in that however brutal he has to be and however brutal the world is around him, essentially Louise's message, without being too pious, is to say that goodness exists. And I think it's really rare, because there is, underpinning all the violence and all the terrible things that do go on, there is a sort of an air of that in life there is tolerance, and there is forgiveness, and there is compassion, and it's got this with a small s sort of spiritual quality to it, which I think is really quite rare. And so whatever the terrors that are going on, there's this, goodness does not necessarily prevail in all respects by any means, but there is essentially a human goodness to find in even in the worst situations.
And isn't that why we come to stories? Because we all live in the world where all of this stuff is happening, and there are plenty of jokes about 2020 and what chaos this year has brought. But that's why we go to stories, because we want to know that there are people who can model, at least for us, that there is goodness in the world, and that the good guys will prevail in some sense.
Yeah, one hopes. But yeah, absolutely. And that sense of, and it isn't just escapism, but it is escapism as well. I mean, because there is a sort of worldwide high anxiety at the moment, and literature can take us away from that, and can take us into things which aren't just about oneself and one's own anxieties. And as soon as you tap into a piece of literature, whether it's on the page or whether it's in audio form, is an escape, and it's not an escape that is abrogating your responsibility, social responsibilities. It's just for your soul, really, is to replenish and refresh, and that's what literature can do. And you can be, as I say, can be absorbed in many ways. But and to at a time when perhaps people think that there's too much doom and gloom around, it is important to cling on to the concept of goodness and tolerance and redemption.
So, Robert, where do we find Inspector Armand Gamache in this story, and when we first tune in, what's going on, and what can we expect from this book?
About every second of these Inspector Gamache novels, and as I say, there's been 16 now. She writes one a year or so. Almost every second one of the latest lot leave Three Pines. Three Pines is a sort of mythical village in Quebec state, where Gamache has settled. You think settled? I mean, all sorts of things happen in Three Pines, which would lead anybody to think, cracky, where have I turned up? But it's so they leave and they go out into Quebec City, and they go out into different parts of mostly. But this is the first time that the series has left the continent of North America, and we find ourselves in Paris. One of his sons, who we haven't met a great deal of because he's been in Paris, is there, is living in Paris, and his godfather is this man called Stephen Horowitz, who is also in Paris and is German, but he's been living in Paris, and of course wherever Gamache goes, I don't know how the man gets insurance. Wherever the man goes, something terrible does happen, and which of course needs resolution, which of course also puts him in the most terrible peril. Not only him, but also the people closest to him. Family is a very strong theme in the book, and so not only when the family are in peril, but when the actual members of the family are indeed suspects in the whole terrible story. It makes it even more peaked and stronger. She gets the flavour of Paris beautifully, and she's sort of taken the story away from Paris. But there is a possibility that we all end up back at Three Pines. I don't want to spoil the story, but it's who knows. And I always think, is Gamache going to survive? Of the 6 that I've read, I've been really concerned for the safety of Armand Gamache. Partly I've been concerned because I like reading them, and partly because I like working on them, and I don't want the series to end. I want to keep on getting more audiobooks. So I won't say whether he survives this one or not, or whether it's the last one. But it's incredibly thrilling, and Paris is a sort of another character in the whole show, and you get a good flavour. She's also thrown me about 20 characters who are French. So and I just you just try not to make them sound like Inspector Clouseau, you know. So there's a lot of those characters. Of course, they're speaking French in real life, but of course they're speaking English. So there's a certain amount of license you have there.
Well, the new book is called All the Devils Are Here. It's book 16 in the Chief Inspector Gamache novel series, narrated by the one and only Robert Bathurst. Robert, thank you so much for taking time to come on the show. We're going to put links in the show notes of this episode where everyone can pick up their copy of the new book. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today.
Well, thank you, Hank.
Authors, I have a fantastic new service to tell you about. It's called PubSite. PubSite is a service to help you build your very own website, your home on the web, where you can promote your work and give your fans a place to connect with you. PubSite is a website platform that allows every author, regardless of budget, to have a great-looking professional website developed by the book marketing professionals at FSB Associates. PubSite is the new easy-to-use DIY website builder developed specifically for books and authors. Whether you're an author of 1 book or 20, or a small publisher, PubSite allows you to build, design, and most importantly, update your website pain-free. No need to be dependent on a designer or webmaster to make a small but costly change to your website. Save the money and do it yourself. PubSite is the best platform for authors because it's a book-centric platform. PubSite was built just for authors and small publishers. Every design, feature, and layout is book-centric. They have customized designs for you to use. It's easy to build. No coding or HTML is necessary to create a stunning, professional-looking website with all the features you want. Get a custom domain name, yourname.com. It's simple to update. You can add all of your books, add a blog and a book tour, sell from any retailer, manage your email list and social media, and even do e-commerce. Build your website with a 14-day free trial, then pay just $19.99 per month, which includes hosting. And we offer packages starting at $499 to set up the website for you. Pub-site.com, the place to help authors find their home on the web.